Listen closely. You vultures are a funeral home by a time-doomed impending doom. Elias stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the city lights flicker like dying embers. Behind him, the silence was broken only by the rhythmic ticking of a grandfather clock and the wet, labored breathing of a man who had more money than time. Arthur lay in the center of the room, propped up on silk pillows, his skin the color of old parchment. He beckoned them closer with a skeletal hand. Dad is 3 states away. Why not just hire a funeral home? Why us?
Soccer mom's chariot repurposed as a hearse. Elias gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. In the back, tucked under a pile of moth-eaten moving blankets and bags of decorative mulch, lay the mortal remains of Arthur Sterling. He had been dead for 6 hours, and the desert heat was already beginning to work its dark magic on his cellular structure. "Can we please open a window?" Miller groaned from the passenger seat. He was clutching a bottle of lukewarm water like it was a holy relic. "It smells like a tuna sandwich left in a locker for a month. We can't open the windows. You made to keep the air conditioning on, Max, and keep the vents on recirculate. Also, if we open the windows, we lose the seal. We have to keep the environment controlled. Context as seas can set Sherry to their surface." Polo by the circus steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. In the back, tucked under a pile of moth-eaten moving blankets and bags of decorative mulch, lay the mortal remains of Arthur Sterling. By the time they reached the outskirts of his voice trembling, the air conditioning, which had been their only defense against the mounting biological reality in the back, began to blow a tepid, humid. Elias hammered on the dashboard, but the vents only groaned in response. The smell was no longer a suggestion. It was a physical presence, a thick, cloying fog of decay that seemed to seep into the very upholstery of cruiser pulled into the lot. The officer, a stout man with a mustache that looked like a dead squirrel, stepped out and began walking toward the shop. Elias felt his heart hammer against his ribs like a trapped bird. That was too close, Miller just an inch, trying to block the sheriff's view of the interior. "Just fine, officer. We're just heading up to the lake for a fishing trip. My friend here," he gestured to Jax, "has a very sensitive eye condition. The goggles help with the glare." The sheriff squinted, his eyes darting from Elias to the back of the van. "Fishing, huh? Must be some powerful bait you've got in there. Smells like something crawled into your engine and gave up the ghost about a week ago. Shut up and start packing the ice. Prenden de slow, hers thy action. I couldn't get to pairs, thy commander was welling 9. As the sheriff walked back to his cruiser, Miller threw the ice into the side door and scrambled in the water. Cat thinks his way and come form his back country. He had ripped open the bags of ice and shoveled them over the blankets covering Arthur. The cold helped with the smell, but it created a new problem. The ice was melting, and a slow, dark slurry was beginning to pool in the footwells of the middle row. "This is a nightmare," Jack said, lifting his feet to avoid the freezing, murky water. "We are literally sitting in billionaires. If the police don't catch us, we're going to die of some Victorian disease like cholera. The calling resume, and the sun is going down. This is how it ends." The driver looked at the bottle, then at Elias, then back at the van. He took the bottle, uncorked it, and took a long swig. "That's some damn fine bear juice," he said, wiping his mouth gagging. Again, the driver looked at the bottle, then at Elias, then back at the van. He took the bottle, uncorked it, and took a long swig that was in wentries and exalfly. "I'm intermitting trainman, and trying any his and a lady. You'd like to somer constries and get us moving in the next 10 minutes. The driver looked at the bottle, then at Elias, then back at the van. He took the bottle, uncorked it, and took a long swig. "That's some damn fine bear juice," he said, wiping his mouth. "That's a dermy," Jack said quickly, his voice cracking. "A grizzly bear. It's an heirloom. The seal broke in the crate and, well, the desert heat hasn't been kind to it." The driver walked toward the back of the van. Elias stepped in his way, holding out a bottle of the vintage scotch. "Look, friend, we're in a hurry. We need a tire and a tow to the next shop. This bottle is worth $4,000. It's yours if you don't ask any more questions and get us moving in the next 10 minutes. "Please put the heads up," Elias said, tossing a wad of crumpled bills at the man. "We'll get it checked at the next stop," as they piled back into the van. "We'll get it checked at the next stop." As they piled back in there, Miller whispered, standing in the fluorescent glow of the tire shop parking lot, "I can hear them, the flies.
They're having a banquet. We have 6 hours left. Checking his watch as their parents' terminal lay. He looked disturbed. $12 out. Hence a direct order. Coming for him. The forest wants its tribute backer, making the headlights of the Odyssey feel useless. Inside, the atmosphere was hallucinatory. The combination of sleep deprivation, Scotch fumes, and the overwhelming scent of Arthur's transition into the afterlife had pushed the trio to the brink of madness. "Did you hear that?" Miller asked, his eyes wide and staring at the ceiling. His drawing made into the tie and is the first. As the right now, be asword in the dividends and counts a claim. It is me thing's name, but as me te. Tazer second Holland. We can term my be a commons, and it the other right was reasonable interpretation, competitive in the family. Even the wildlife knows, Miller said, a hysterical giggle bubbling up. But coming for him, the forest wants its tribute. Alluring his felt solemnities. Elias didn't hesitate. He floored it, the van fishtailing before finding traction. They raced the final few miles, the clock on the dashboard ticking toward midnight with agonizing precision. They reached the gates of the Sterling estate at 11:48 p.m. The wrought iron gates were locked, topped with jagged spikes. Beyond them, a long gravel drive led to a crumbling stone mausoleum nestled among weeping willows. "The code," Jack said, fumbling with a piece of paper Arthur had given him. He said the code was the date of his first hostile takeover. "Just punch it in." Elias yelled, steering the van right up to the keypad. They froze and stood over the sarcophagus, gasping for air, their clothes stained with mulch and God knows what else. They looked at the body of Arthur Sterling, which finally seemed at peace, or at least as much as a rotting billionaire can find. "We did it," Jax whispered, leaning against the cold stone wall. "We actually did it. The chloroform news timed the mains." The Hayden nook back, they sprinted out of the mausoleum, diving into the wet grass just as a muffled "I did leave one small surprise. Since you didn't use a refrigerated van, the gas buildup in my abdominal cavity should be quite significant by now." In about 30 seconds, the can lay a 20% Duriel up promotions in the West. They looked at the body of Arthur Sterling, which finally seemed at peace, or at least as much peace as a rotting billionaire can find. "We did it," Jax whispered. Pairing this. I said the safe would peel te. Ben Cree Tay's wine gas brews. Shack out bays what there was a lot of the way to their beach change. They hade in versions of these